Hello everyone and welcome to WGBS TV Live, brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com, the number one Superman fan site in the world. In this, our October 29th, 2019 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including the news that they're developing a new Superman and Lois TV series for the CW. We're also going to be talking about the latest Supergirl episode, we're going to be talking comic books, and so much more. We're also going to turn to you to ask your questions and get your comments on any particular...
The way my phone was blowing up yesterday, I knew it was going to be a busy night. We will try to start taking your calls. To do this, you're going to need Skype. Go to Skype, find Superman homepage, message us that you'd like to be on the show. Thank you. But some people like to go both ways. A couple things about this. One, wait for us to reply. We'll try to get you on the show, but you've got to wait for us to reply to you because messaging us and trying to call in screws it up. Also, if you have an external speaker, please turn that down before we take the call. Get some headphones on or whatever, because it is incredibly hard for us to work with the delay that we're on, and it creates a whole thing. If you've ever listened to radio and people called in and they're listening and their speakers all the way up, it's all screwed up. So just those are the two things.
Yes, it's a roundabout way of getting to that. How have you been? What's been happening in your world?
Oh, I had to go to the doctor today, so I'm on some medication that may or may not affect this show. But no, yesterday I was just having a normal work day, and suddenly my hip starts vibrating, and then it keeps vibrating, and then it keeps vibrating some more. And oh my God, the amount of people that were talking about this, and the amount of people that messaged me to make sure I knew. Totally appreciate that, everybody, because I was at work. I wasn't paying attention. But no, I am extremely excited right now.
Yes, I can imagine. We'll remind everyone also, because I'm sure they're excited, that if you want to get involved in tonight's show, you can, and you're doing it via YouTube. There's the comment section. Post your comments, ask questions. Michael and I will keep an eye on your comments and questions as the show goes on. So that's how you can get involved if you don't want to call in. And a huge thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. We appreciate your support. So the big news, as Michael was saying, very excited. The announcement has come down. It hasn't been an official press release, but all the major news outlets have been talking about the fact, and the actors themselves, that there is a Superman and Lois TV series in development at the CW. It's obviously going to be a spin-off starring Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Bitsy Tulloch in their roles that they've played on the Supergirl series and the crossovers that they've had on the other shows as well. It's probably going to be out in 2020, but it will be a show following on from those characters and what we've known about them and what we will find out about them in the upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover.
Yeah, I am both surprised and not surprised. Like, I've seen a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, well, this is like a no-brainer." I never assume something involving Superman in live action is a no-brainer until something is officially announced. Because the first tweet I got took me to a site that I'm like, "Oh, this isn't real," and then the next one was because that one was from Heroic Hollywood, and I'm like, "Oh, so this is just another."
Photoshop
one of those
job.
Photoshop jobs. It's like, well, what would it look like? And then I'm like, no, the Hollywood Reporter is talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, this is why you always, as Ronald Reagan quoted in Russian, trust but verify. You always want to make sure that some reputable, and when I say reputable, I'm not saying that Heroic Hollywood isn't reputable, but its reputation nowadays is Photoshop of Grant Gustin in another Flash outfit. And while that's entertaining and it gets clicks, that's not hard news. And you got things like We Got This Covered that's crowing, because, pun intended, that they scooped everybody on the Tom Welling and Crisis thing, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. So when something like the Hollywood Reporter and then Bitsy Tulloch, tweets about it or Facebooks about it, it's like, okay, this is the real deal. The other thing that really made me feel good is we've got a showrunner and they've got a direction. So it's not just, oh, we're thinking about this. No, they've got people on it. And if they're announcing at this point that they have people on it, the chances of this going through increase dramatically.
Yeah, indeed. So what we do know is IGN.com and everybody else, they said Variety and Heroic, everybody was pretty much stating the fact that it's in development. It's going to be focusing on the pressures that Lois and Clark face, balancing their professional lives as reporters, their superhero responsibilities as far as Superman is concerned, and the complexities of raising a child, which, as we know, in the recent crossover that they had, Elseworlds crossover, it was announced that obviously Lois was pregnant with their child, and they were headed off-world to Argo City, where under a red sun she would safely be able to carry the baby to term, and that's why they were going off-planet. And so obviously in the upcoming Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, we will see the pair back involved in some capacity with child in arm, and the spin-off series will probably pick up from that.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that this is the direction they're going in after the comics have kind of abandoned that storyline, which is actually kind of cool because a lot of people liked seeing Lois and Clark and their kid.
Yeah,
and I when they aged up John, my reaction was and realized that I have these reactions mainly for like a coping mechanism. Like, it's not like I necessarily agree with the decision, but I always fall back on the just accepting it because I have absolutely no power in this, and I could complain about it all day long, but it's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
So my feeling was, if you age John, then you don't have to worry about having him be 10 years old for 30 years. That's not to say that I don't want to see that. I'm just saying things can get stale, and if you've ever seen what happened to Franklin Richards in the pages of the Fantastic Four, weird things can happen. So the fact that they abandoned that idea, and now John's in the future with the Legion, I'm like, okay, whatever. But if you're going to tell me there's going to be a TV series with two people that I really like in the roles playing parents, and it's going to be such a different type of Superman show, like, I'm sure that, you're going to have your super villains and you're going to have your overarching, storylines that go through the season. But at the same time, you're going to have Lois and Clark raising a child and dealing with the, not only, the normal wear and tear of having a kid, but also, the kid's part alien. Is he going to develop superpowers? How does Superman react to that? Will Clark, fall back on the teachings of his parents? Jonathan and Martha. Are they going to cast Jonathan and Martha? Are we going to get Perry White? Will Jimmy show up for an episode or two, which would be kind of cool? There's all these questions, and of course the big albatross in the room for me is you obviously at some point have to have a Lex Luthor storyline. Because he was great on Supergirl. Man, I want to see him up against Superman. I mean, it's nothing against Supergirl, but Lex is Superman's enemy. So, no, there's just so many things about this that I'm just excited about. I mean, again, it's just an initial announcement. There's no air date. There's no filming date. But I have a feeling that, one, they've been sitting on this a while, and two, they floated this out there, are gauging response, and now based on how the reaction to Superman's end of the Crisis is going to be, that's going to be the final, like, okay, we're finally going through with this.
So a couple of things that I'd like to see. Obviously, we're going to get to see the Daily Planet in some capacity. So we need to see a Perry White. Obviously, this is down the track, so James, as we just saw in the latest episode of Supergirl, is off doing his own thing in his old hometown with a newspaper that he's bought and published, being a publisher of there. So yeah, it would be nice to see Mehcad Brooks drop in from time to time, and I guess now he's available to do that. Who they cast as Perry White will be interesting. Whether we see other cast members of the Daily Planet, staff members, will be interesting to see who they go with and how much they are involved. Jonathan and Martha, will that eventuate? Are they alive in this iteration? The baby, will it be a toddler, a small child? What age will they have it once the show picks up? Of course, they can decide at any particular point in time how old the baby is when they start to pick up this show, depending on when the show begins and airs. So that'll be interesting. Also, I'm keen to see whether or not they redesign the costume. That's one, they've created this costume for the Supergirl TV series, but even the Supergirl costume in its own series has developed and changed. Will they listen to the fans and make some alterations as far as especially the cape is concerned? I would like to see that. Looking at Brandon Routh's costume for Kingdom Come, will they go, well, that looks fantastic on Brandon, why don't we go with the red trunks again? Any of those kind of different aspects. Will they decide, look, we tried that, it worked for this, will we maybe adapt that for the new Superman and Lois series? And is that what it's called? Is it called Superman and Lois, as has been quoted?
Yeah, when you started talking about Brandon's outfit, I'm like, that's exactly how you do it. Like, he sees it and goes, that doesn't look too bad. He's pulling it off. I've got the physique. It's just, going to a more traditional outfit. I mean, they changed Kara's outfit.
Yes.
They gave her pants. And actually, that suit is really growing on me. I think it's because the S is reflective. Like when she's walking under light sources, it glows a little bit, so it actually looks kind of cool. And I'm like, well, if they can change her costume, why can't they change his costume? They're not beholden to it anymore.
No, and don't get me wrong, people saying in the comments that they like Tyler's costume. I don't dislike it. There are just certain aspects of it that if it was up to me, I would make some alterations on. You mentioned the people who are connected with it. It's going to be produced by the Berlanti Productions, which do all the CW superhero shows, Warner Brothers Television. It's going to be written and executive produced by Todd Helbing, who was the former showrunner of The Flash, which is probably my favourite of the CW superhero shows. Greg Berlanti, Sarah Schechter, and Jeff Johns will also be executive producers on the series. So, yeah, 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, no, seriously. The fact that Johns is involved, well, one, makes me think there's going to be a lot of references to Superman the movie, and that's totally okay. But I think with his involvement in this as an executive producer, if he has any kind of power, it's going to be basically the opposite of the Man of Steel situation, where he could only make suggestions, but ultimately they didn't listen to him. If that article that came out a couple years ago is to be believed, that he looked at this and said, this isn't what we need to do. And the fact that Henry Cavill talked about the conversations he had with Jeff Johns during the reshoots on Justice League made me think that Johns is just chomping at the bit to do a Superman in live action that matches more of what he wants to see. And since what he likes and what I like kind of line up, the easy thing to say here is, I like this because I like that Superman. It's super obvious, no pun intended there. But the fact of the matter is, I'm sorry that the DCEU didn't work out. I really do. I feel bad for the people that like that Superman, because they're never really going to see that Superman play out beyond his origin and his death and his resurrection. There's going to be no exploration of that unless the TV series does good and they decide to do a new movie. I mean, Flash was in Justice League while Grant Gustin was on the air, so it's not out of the question at this point. But at the same time, I wasn't really a fan of that Superman. And Superman Returns didn't really rock my world. And Smallville was never a Superman show. You can argue that it was. I've heard good arguments on that. But that was about Clark Kent. It was about Clark Kent becoming Superman. So now, for the first time since Lois and Clark, or the animated series if you want to get really pedantic, we're going to have a show that is about Superman and Lois, and about their relationship, and about them going to that next level. And I think I have seen people that are hardcore DCAU fans like Tyler Hoechlin's version of the character. I've seen the opposite, but I've seen enough of them to go, wow, this looks really cool, that I'm like, this has enough general appeal. We're probably at least going to get a season or two out of it. These CW shows tend to stick around.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't put it and Supergirl on the same night, because I don't want Super Sunday to become a thing at all. I think putting him like on the same night as The Flash would probably be a good match.
Well, if Arrow's about to finish, there's a time slot there that could open up. As you said, Bitsy Tulloch took to social media to say, cat's out of the bag, I finally can talk about this. And she said, I'm so excited. Thank you, Warner Brothers TV, DC Comics and CW, Greg Berlanti, etc. Our incredible showrunner, Ted Helbing, is writing such a riveting, unique and poignant story for us. And I couldn't ask for a better or more fun partner than Tyler, which all sounds fantastic. Tyler himself also took to social media and on his Instagram account said, I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity to tell this story that for now shall remain a secret. But I've been blessed with nothing less than the most wonderful people to do it alongside of. I couldn't ask for a better partner than Bitsy Tulloch in all of this. I've already learned so much from her, and I know that won't stop anytime soon. Thank you, Greg Berlanti, and everyone else who brought her in as our Lois. All the people behind the scenes care so much about these characters and their lives and the parts to which we'll be speaking about. It gives me great comfort to know that they'll steer us in the right direction. Thank you to everyone that said yes to this project. We won't let you down. It's going to be a grand adventure. Can't wait to get to work. So all exciting, positive stuff there from both actors.
I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench into this conversation. As Uncle Clark, Brandon Routh, as that Earth Superman coming to live on this Earth after his Earth has been destroyed. I'm just saying.
Yeah, why not?
It would be great.
He's not going to doing anything either. He's taking some time off, having left DC's Legends of Tomorrow. So
yeah.
It opens up a lot of space for these people to be involved in something.
Yeah, and depending on how Crisis goes, it does open up having occasional crossovers with former Supermen. Because if this Crisis is like the original Crisis, they're going to get rid of the multiverse, which I hate. I wasn't around for comics at the time that it happened, so I don't have a dog in that fight. And I can argue both sides of that, but I like the multiverse aspect of this because then anything is possible. And, if you're going to... the only hiccup to all of this is that the first 5 seasons of Supergirl have taken a lot of great Superman concepts and used it for her show. But the flip side to that is, one, you can always bring Metallo back. That's an easy one. I mean, It doesn't have to be Otis. It can be somebody else. But there are so many other great Superman villains that they haven't put on the screen yet.
Yes.
That I would just Riot. Remember Riot, the
one that
hit him and he splits into another thing. That would be awesome to see. I mean, there's just like all these things that they can do. I am seriously so happy about this that it completely makes up for the fact that I'm not going to be reading the comics for the time being. So it's like I still get a Superman. It's just going to be in a different format.
Yeah, so we just hang on every word that comes out from these reports. I'm sure there'll be bits and pieces dropped here and there over the next few months as things start to pick up and once Crisis on Infinite Earths hits our screens. So really looking forward to this. We're both excited for it. Obviously the Superman homepage will be covering every little tidbit that comes out about this TV series, so make sure you stay tuned to supermanhomepage.com for everything in regards to Superman and Lois. Alright, before we jump into the this latest episode of Supergirl, I will be posting this on the website in the next couple of hours, but this new HBO Max service, digital streaming service that was just announced today, as it will be May 2020 will be the launch. It will have every live action Superman film ever produced available on that, Supergirl the movie as well. It will have everything from Cartoon Network and CNN and all the other properties that belong to Warner Brothers and its affiliates and people who own AT&T and everything like that. I don't know what that means for DC Universe, the digital streaming service. I'm not sure what happens there. Maybe you know more about that than I do. But this sounds like they could also be doing some big budget films specifically for HBO Max that will include some of the DC Comics characters. So for all we know, we could get a live action Superman movie that goes direct to this digital service. We could get, I mean, there's talk about this Supergirl movie that was supposed to be happening. We haven't heard anything about that. That could go direct to HBO Max. They're going to be producing big budget films specifically for this service, which is, I guess, a new way of delivering material to an audience.
So I have a friend that writes for the DC Universe app, and he posted a message from the app that, as of right now, nothing's changing.
Okay.
There's still going to be a DC Universe app, and I think they're mainly wanting to keep that for the comics, because it's a streaming service for the comics as well. So does that force you potentially to have to subscribe to 2 different streaming services? You have to do that now. I know it's the same company, but if I have to drop Netflix to get HBO Max because it has more content that I actually want to watch, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm also wondering if this is where all the CW shows are going to go. Because they're not going to, I don't think they're going to go to the app, the DC Universe app. They're leaving Netflix. So this would be a good place to have that. So it would be worth it to have both. In my opinion, it would be worth it to have both. Because with the DC Universe app, you have not only the movies and the TV shows, but you have 20,000+ comics to read.
Yeah. So
it's really, I think, in their best interest, because Marvel is still going to have the Marvel Unlimited app, and they're going to have Disney Plus. So it's not. So if you want to read the comics and watch the Marvel stuff, you have to get both. This is just where entertainment is going. It's all going to Roku, which has made a resurgence. Oddly enough, Roku is now like a bigger deal than it was. It was like a joke 2 years ago, and now we're hardcore selling it at work. So I'm excited for this because I love the idea that you're paying for let's go with Disney Plus for right now. They're pouring money into these Marvel shows, and they're pouring these money in the Marvel shows on the same app that has all the Star Wars stuff. Now, thousands, probably millions of people are going to subscribe simply for the Star Wars content. So they're going to pay for the Marvel content. It's a completely different model. They don't have to worry about a network. They don't have to. Now that could get ugly in a hurry. It could get to the point where there's no oversight and things just go horribly, horribly wrong. But at the same time, you can have more than a season or 2 of a TV series because the profit margin on it is enough. You're making money enough off of the other shows that this is worth it, because then it gets the IP out there and it may engage people and have them come to the service. Like the fact that they're talking about a Green Lantern series.
Yep.
That's awesome. That I'm down with that. I mean, and it's Berlanti, and it's this guy is becoming the Kevin Feige of the DC universe. He really is. He and Jeff Johns, I think, are going to be the ones. This is how the whole DC cinematic universe thing is going to get turned around. Not that they're going to take it over, but they're just basically going to be shelved that because come on, let's face it, Warner Brothers is more than happy to abandon stuff. But if they get Johns and Berlanti and the other crew, and they're all handling the DC stuff, and people are liking it enough and it's supporting it, we may finally have the live-action DC universe. It may not all be connected like the Marvel stuff, but we may have the Green Lantern series, the Flash series, the Superman series, the Supergirl series. You've got Batwoman, which is getting really good. I mean, it's just DC, I think, has figured out our characters work better in serialized fiction rather than movies. And I am just totally down with that.
Now, we've also, in the comments, Amethyst saying about international fans, I believe that they will, once the US May 2020 launch for HBO Max is underway, in 2021, there will be a HBO Max international variety for fans. I don't know which countries at this stage. I believe Europe will obviously be a major target audience, but it will be unlike DC Universe. HBO Max will have an international availability, so keep an eye out for that. As for, I think as a HBO Now, is that the service that's currently in play? Those people will just automatically be going on to HBO Max. There won't be any difference in price or whatever for them. So maybe DC Universe people might get some kind of a discount offer or something, as, you get DC
like
Universe.
Like a bundle deal.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm sure the marketing people are sitting back there at the desks working it all out, trying to figure out how they can make it feasible for fans who are already a part of, their other services.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like all of the announcements coming out this week have me nothing but excited.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot be more happy as somebody who wants to see these characters, in live action, because I've always wanted to see it. And I didn't, to be fair, I didn't hate the Green Lantern film. That movie had so much Superman the movie in its blood that it's almost kind of funny. I mean, his first big public debut was saving somebody in a helicopter. So, it's just one of those things. But like I said, I really and truly believe that these characters work better when you're telling an extended storyline, because I think there's such a mythic quality to the DC heroes that you need the room to kind of develop it
and breathe.
What the recent Superman films prove to me is that a 2.5 hour to 3 hour time frame is not enough to really tell a good Superman story.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, for sure. All right, before we take a break, we're almost at the halfway point of the show. Let's get into our monthly segments. We've got the Super Secret Soundbite and the Big Question. We'll start with the latter to begin with, and let me play the intro for the Big.
Let's start with the big question.
All right, Ron Crosby wrote, the question, by the way, is, are you enjoying the current Superman comic books?
Yes.
Ron Crosby wrote, sadly, no. I enjoy Bendis when he writes younger people. I'm not sure how he gets kids so well, but he just does. I have disliked every single thing Brian Michael Bendis has done with Action Comics and Superman. Destroying and relocating the Fortress of Solitude, the horrible villain in Rogol Zar, the extremely boring and slow burn, if that is what it truly is, and then there is the Trunks. Relax, people, it's an opinion. I miss the days of Jurgens and Tomasi.
Fair enough. Thank you, Ron, for your honest opinion. John Patrick Van Pelt wrote in. He says, yes, he's enjoying them, but to me it all depends on what book app you use. I read most of my Superman comic books on DC Comics app or Comixology app these days. I hope the Superman homepage hosts like the answer I'm given, because I feel like the way we are headed with technology. So for him, it's based on the technology he's using and how he's reading them rather than the stories, which is an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair, because I was having a discussion with the owner of the comic shop I go to, and he made the point that, writing for the trade at this point is just smart, because people consume things in binge quantities now.
Yes.
So it's easier when you have everything at once. It's like the monthly grind is great, but I've even gotten to the point where I just like to have 6 or 7 issues built up so I can just have a good experience with it.
Yeah, it was interesting. While I was away in Europe for my vacation, I didn't buy comics while I was away, just for security reasons over, Wi-Fi and stuff like that on my iPad. So when I got back, I had like 4 weeks of comics to buy and to read, and I had about 5 or 6 issues of Justice League, which is the bi-monthly title, and it was just like, yeah. And then I got to the last one, I went, oh damn, and I have to wait a couple of weeks for the next issue. So there was something about reading a whole lot in one go, although it was exhausting, because I was like, God, I still got another 5 comics to read before I catch up. So it was, I like having 2 or 3 to read each week, and then knowing that I'm caught up. But having like 12 to catch up on was it was fun, and it was like thrilling, but it was also exhausting thinking that I still have so many to catch up on. But I'm glad I caught up.
Luckily, Bendis reads well binging.
Yes.
I found that out with his Ultimate Spider-Man run. Patrick O'Neill wrote, overall, I've been enjoying Bendis' run on the Superman books. They aren't my favorite stories of all time, but I'm still enjoying them. I hope he stays on the books for a while. I am interested to see where the stories will go. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you to all those respondents for the big question. What is our new big question for this month, Michael?
How do you feel about the announcement that the CW is developing a Superman and Lois TV show? Hey, I had it up this time. I didn't have to fake it. I'm feeling pretty good about that.
So yeah, get involved in the big question segment of our show. A lot of you have been in the comments already as we've been talking about it in tonight's program. Giving your thoughts on it. Put it in writing. Send it to us. Get involved in the big question segment. We'll read them out at the end of November when we come back to these segments. Head to the Superman homepage. Under the contact menu, you will find the big question feedback form and put it all in writing. Send it to us. If you want to record an audio message so that we can play it here, if you're not big into typing but you'd rather verbalize it, do that. All the instructions are there on the big question feedback form page, and we will get back to this segment at the end of November when we return for the final episode of November and reading out the response we get to this big question next month. So get involved. All right, let's push on to the super secret soundbite. Here is our intro for that.
Only one thing alive with less than 4 legs can hear this frequency, Superman, and that's you.
I'm sorry, you're playing the sound. Or am I saying
No,
something?
you're good.
Okay.
All right, I'll get to it. The sound from last month's Super Secret Soundbite contest was from Crypto the Superdog animated series. Let's hear that sound again, remind you of exactly what it was.
Do you believe it? All we had to do is put a cape on you, and everybody thinks you're another dog.
Yep, there it was. The Kevin talking to Crypto about his secret identity. So that was the sound from last month, and I think only 3 people got it right. Who were they, Michael?
They were Stephen Marshall, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Patrick O'Neill. I guess if you were wanting to win this month, Patrick had to be in your name somewhere. At least 2 out of 3 people.
Exactly. So congratulations to those 3 guys for guessing where in the world of Superman that sound came from. Now, here is our new super secret soundbite. Take a listen.
Why is it I can't get it on with the good guys?
So there you have it. Do you think you know where in the world of Superman that sound came from? I bet you do. It's probably very easy. So if you do know, don't put it in the comments now. Go to the Superman homepage website. Under the contact menu, you'll find the super secret soundbite entry form and send your entry in. Each person who guesses it right will have their name read out in the final episode of November when we return to these monthly segments. So get involved with the big question and the super secret soundbite segments of our show.
Yep, and they're getting more fun. I like the fact that after a couple months of people not really being super involved with it, like now everyone's kind of getting back into the fun of it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're over the halfway mark of tonight's show. We're going to take a quick break, play some messages, and then come back on the flip side to talk about Supergirl, the latest episode and upcoming episodes right after these messages. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Read it. Not.
You can make them fly or jump or crash a wall. Superhero action figures over 7 inches tall.
Each sold separately.
Superman, Batman, Incredible Hulk, you can make them do their thing. Even make Spider-Man slide down a string. Lots of action for one and all. Action figures over 7 inches tall.
These superhero action figures each sold separately. Batman, Superman, Incredible Hulk, and Spider-Man, each sold separately by Mego.
Mego ad. It's probably the only time you see Hulk, Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman together.
Mm-hmm.
Legitimately. Because you get those packs, I don't know if you've seen them, some of those dodgy toy stores where they've got all these characters in weird costume, amalgamations of costumes, and they're all like Marvel superheroes, but you got Batman and Superman's usually got gloves on for some reason.
Yeah, and I think the didn't that museum in Metropolis have like a bunch of those in their action figure section? Those are great.
All right, let's jump into this past Supergirl episode, the most recent Supergirl episode, which was titled "In Plain Sight." You gave it a review of 4 out of 5 on the website. I've just watched it just before we came live on tonight's show. And I've got to say that if not for the last 5 minutes of this episode, it would not have got a great rating from me. For the most part, the story with Jimmy or James and his sister going back to their hometown, and I liked that part. That part felt real and kind of honest to me. The other parts with Jean, with the way especially Alex was reacting unprofessional about, at the DEO, about, her girlfriend being in danger, it just seemed really, and then Brainy with his relationship issues, nobody seemed professional anymore. It just seems like it was just really kind of made me cringe to some extent. But then the final 5 minutes of the episode where Kara has that deep and meaningful with what's his name, William Day.
Day, yeah.
What's really going on, and finding out the true story about why he's been such a douche, and all the his research and everything that's going on there. The James, sitting around the table at the bar telling everybody exactly what he's doing, and then him at his new office with the young boy, that whole thing there, and then Lena's thing at the end. That all that made me go, okay, I like this episode only because of the way it finished up.
Yeah, I was kind of on a similar vibe. It's just like, and again, I mentioned this every week. I watch it with Rachel, and she's just like, she was literally sitting there when Alex was incepted. And by the way, I hate that that's a verb now. But when Alex was incepted by Malefic, she just kept sitting there going, "You're better than this, John. You can figure this out, John. You're better than this, John." And again, I get it because they have to make it contrived, because that's how the show goes.
Yeah, contrived is a great word.
But the thing is that you are dead on. That last 5 to 10 minutes just wrapped everything up, and it's just like, oh wait, I'm on board now.
Yes.
I didn't know where this was going to go, but I'm not completely sure that William Day is still on the level. But if this is where they're going to go, and it's going to be him and Supergirl and Kara taking on Andrea Rojas, and she's going to be kind of the big bad of the season, and probably themed into the Leviathan somewhere. But also Lena taking Malefic, it's just like, oh, you are going full Luthor here, aren't you? Wow. And that's the thing. It's like, because I was kind of having a similar problem, in quotes, with Batwoman that I was having with Supergirl, whereas I was enjoying it, and they were doing some interesting things, but it still didn't have that thing that just grabbed me and wouldn't let me go. And actually, both Batwoman and Supergirl this week did that. They managed to get whatever they were trying to get together together, and now we can go forward. I thought the goodbye to Jimmy, not James Grown Man Olsen anymore. Sorry, Rebecca, but Jimmy was the most fair they have been to that character since season 1.
So good. True.
I mean, it's just like they jerked him around, and it's not Macabre Brooks' fault, and I don't really blame the writers. because they were trying to keep a cast together, and that can sometimes create conflict because then you've got to, here's that word again, you got to contrive reasons. The fact that the kid that was squatting at his aunt's house was named Simon Kirby made me smile, because Joe Simon and Jack Kirby created The Guardian and the Newsboy Legion. So the fact of the matter is, Jimmy owns a newspaper now. He's got a kid with him. We can get a whole group of kids. I know they're not going to do this.
The Newsboy Legion.
You have the potential for a Guardian and Newsboy Legion story.
So good.
Series.
Nice.
Like, do it as a digital comic, please. I mean, seriously. But I think they gave him such a fantastic send-off. You know, Wynn's send-off was okay, but it was kind of tacked on at the end of the last episode. Oh, yeah, I'm out of here. We've seen Jimmy through the past 4 episodes, you know, struggling to figure out what he wanted to do, and they finally gave him that thing, and it's a trope. It's going back to your hometown, and something's messed up. I mean, when I went back to my hometown for my 20th anniversary, I found out that they had built a casino because Bethlehem was the home of the steel mills for most of the 40s and 50s, and then they all closed down. And then some developer took those steel mills and turned them into casinos. And I'm sitting here legit thinking, am I going to have to fight somebody for the soul of my town when I get back?
Like it was at a prison.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, it had the Supergirl thing of a social issue, but that's a real social issue.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing to hang a plot around. So it was just like, this is kind of cool. And Mehcad Brooks, like, he looked happy. I mean, he looked a little sad. You knew he probably likes working with these people.
Yeah.
But that final scene where he goes, "Call me Jimmy," I'm like, that's a great bow on his character. Because in the first episode, it was, "Call me James."
Yes.
So it's like he's come full circle. And they've never done that with a character on the show before. So I was really happy with that.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I thought that was fantastic. And, you know, it was good to see him go out on a good note. And everyone around that table, you know, the emotions were there. You know, almost got choked up looking at their reactions. Even Brainy's over the top reaction. But Justin in the comments saying, where does Nia get her connections from? She's got this, instead of going to Brainy, she had to go to his friend who could crack the code for her. And I guess that's just a plot device that they needed.
She's a reporter. She's probably
who's been in the job for all of 2 weeks.
Maybe a little longer than that. But still, you know, she's probably one. That's a good development for that character.
Yeah.
You know, not having somebody completely dependent on the DEO for every bit of information they get is kind of refreshing for the show.
True. And it was good to see William Day's story fleshed out a little bit more. We know now a bit more about him, and he's not as nefarious as he seemed to be. He's obviously got his reasons, and that will play out. There was a recent interview that we posted on our website with the actor, what's his name? Stas Nair, where he spoke about the next couple of episodes, you know, are going to be really good for his character, so wait for those. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing how that whole Andrea Rojas investigation plays out now that Kara and William are on the same team, obviously looking, you know, to investigate what's going on there. It's great to see some investigative reporting actually happening at Catco on this show.
Yeah, they've leaned into that skid a lot more than last season, and it's actually really interesting. I like that. We're going to be using, like, Kara shows up at that woman's apartment and the woman blows her out of the window, and she comes right back as Supergirl. And I love that her first line was, "You could have killed that woman." I was just like, good save. You are terrible at keeping a secret identity. I'm glad that you're finally putting some effort into that. But no, it's the idea that it's not. This is going to sound weird because I was kind of behind a lot of what they were saying last season. But the fact that it's not them trying to bring down a president or talk about a group that is, you know, using vigilante tactics because they're trying to force their sense of social justice on the world, in whatever you want to say that with. This is them investigating a legit mystery. Who is Andrea Rojas? What is her connection to all of this? They had the crazy, you know, conspiracy board in William Day's very empty apartment. And I'm just like, okay, if this is where they're going to carry like to the crisis, then I'm really glad for that.
In the comments, Mind the Gap saying some people are freaking out about the fact that there might be a romance there. I didn't even see any glimmer of a romance between Kara and William. I hope they don't go that way. Surely not every male-female reaction has to end up in a romance.
Yeah, I think them just working together and being friends. I mean, Jimmy and Kara tried a romance and they abandoned that very quick, and they still ended up being good friends. I think it just works out better that they're just going to work together. And maybe he does have a wife, and maybe she's in hiding, and he's protecting her. So there's things we don't know yet.
It didn't even occur to me, and I'm hoping that they don't go that way, because not everything has to be about relationships on these shows. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I know it's the CW, but yeah.
Give us a little bit of a breather on that side of things. All right, we look towards next week's episode, which is titled Dangerous Liaisons. It will air on Sunday, November 3rd. Here is the promo trailer for that particular episode. Take a look. Where is it? Here it is, Dangerous Liaisons.
His code name is Rip Roar. He has a very dangerous weapon.
He's got to be stopped.
Every coastal city in the world will start flooding in 12 minutes. The loss of life could be in the billions.
Everybody get to high ground!
The ticking clock there. What was his name?
I love...
She said his code name is... Oh, I missed it. There's obviously...
It's a weird name.
Rip Roar or something like that, but I missed it. But this episode airs, as I said, November 3rd at 9 p.m. on Sunday on the CW. On the eve of the worldwide launch of Andrea Rojas's VR contact lenses, Kara and William team up on an investigation that exposes a terrorist plot. Kelly and Alex celebrate an anniversary, yay, but Alex's safety is in jeopardy.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Mike Zumo in the chat there. That's way too much of a Dr. Octopus type villain. That's interesting. That was my first thought too when I saw it.
So that's the next episode, but beyond that, the 6th episode of Season 5 will be titled Confidence Women, and it's described as, while a new villain is under arrest at the DEO, Supergirl uses him to try and understand who is responsible for the recent attacks. Meanwhile, Andrea and Lena think back on their tumultuous past.
It's really nice to be in a position where I wasn't dreading like new episodes, but I've been approaching it for the last 4 episodes like, okay, what are they going to do this time? Now I'm like, okay, now I'm invested. And I'm glad they did it sooner than they did last season.
Yeah, indeed. All right, before we move away from TV things, Brandon Routh was at a recent Celebrity Fan Fest in San Antonio, Texas. I think we might have played a little bit of what he said last week, but here's a little bit of what he said about getting back into the costume and suiting up once again. Let's take a listen. I'll try to forward to the part where he talks exactly about the costume. Where are we? I'm not finding it right now. Oh, here we go.
I can't tell you too much, but it is leading up to it was great. The creative process, and then the fittings. I had to do several fittings before the suit was finalized, and doing a photo shoot, and then the release to the public. So that was all very. It was almost the most important part of the journey for me was the lead up to actually being on camera as him again. It was kind of a healing process for me because after Superman Returns, as a naive young man, I thought I'd be doing more. So the whole process of being able to come back and do this has been incredibly healing, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And it was easier because I felt more like Superman, I think because I'm now 40, and I felt more mature, and like I owned him in a different way than I did. I was kind of felt like I was playing at my idea of Superman a little bit more at 25.
So there you go. He talks about the fact that now being a lot older, he feels like he owned the character more. And it was feel like a healing process for him, because he naively thought back then, Superman Returns, that he'd be doing more movies than just the one. And that was something that I spoke to him about when I interviewed him at the Superman celebration in Metropolis, Illinois, a couple of years ago now. And he kind of put his arm on me and said, "Say, okay, Steve," because I said to him I felt sorry for him that he didn't get a chance to really do his own thing with the character beyond trying to replicate what Christopher Reeve had done in a sequel-esque type film, and that, you know, it felt like it did him a disservice that he didn't really get to put his own stamp on the character. And he was like, "It's okay, don't worry, you know, thank you for that, but it wasn't that bad." But here he says it's a healing process that he got to get back into the costume and kind of play at that character again, which I think there needed to be a bit of closure there for him.
Yeah, I mean, when something is taken away from you, I think as kind of a defense mechanism, you probably get into that thing where you're like, well, it didn't happen, but it's okay. I've come to peace with it. But then something comes up and you get a chance to actually have that closure. Then you can open up all those wounds and really deal with it. If I had a hard time hearing it just because of our setup, but it seems like, did he say at some point the spirit of Superman during that interview?
Not that I recall, but he might have. He might have. I know he said that before.
That was his big thing during the press for Superman Returns, was that it was the spirit of Superman that he really responded to. So I'm so happy that he gets to do this, because you don't normally get another chance at the apple.
That's so true. So good to see him talking about how it felt for him doing that whole process. So good on him. All right, we move towards comic books now. Action Comics 1016 came out this past week, and our reviewer Mario Benisi gave this one a 1 out of 5, the lowest, other than a 0, lowest score rating. He says that this one to him felt like it was just people standing around telling other people what happened between issues, that there wasn't really much that took place. I probably don't agree so much with what his stance on this. I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than him, and maybe that's because I'm enjoying Bendis' style a little bit more than some people. But I don't mind necessarily I know it's called Action Comics, but not everything has to be punching and throwing cars and things for me. I like the more tender moments where people are having conversations about things and sharing their feelings and what have you. I don't mind that aspect of some of the comic book stories that Bendis tells.
Yeah, I've stopped. So I'm going to be really useless to you on these segments for the next year or so. I do apologize for that. I appreciate you not firing me and replacing me with somebody else. Maybe it's my tenure. I don't know. That's a Bendis thing, though. That is a serious Bendis thing to have like a recap episode. There was an issue of Ultimate Spider-Man where Peter tells Mary Jane that he's Spider-Man, and the issue, and I'm not really being all that facetious here, was very well received. But when you read it, it's like two teenagers like, really? Yeah. Really? Yeah. So this is how he paces things. So I'm not surprised. I am surprised Mario gave it such a low rating. He's usually a pretty upbeat guy. So if Mario doesn't like it, I'm going to say, yeah, that was probably not a good issue.
Yeah, I think he's had enough of Bendis by my reckoning. Looking at his comments both on the website, in his reviews, and on social media. So I'm hopeful that he's sticking around, hoping that there's better things ahead. So that was Action Comics 1016. Books available this week. Let's check them out. And I know you're keen to read and review one of these books. Let's get into what is available this week. We have Deceased number 6, which is available not only in this horror movie variant cover, but also in another Dark Side variant cover. The one that you'll be reviewing for us, getting back into the chair reviewing comic books, Tales from the Dark Multiverse, The Death of Superman number 1. I know you're looking forward to that. And there's also the Dollar Comics Superman number 75 out this week.
I'll be picking that up because I have to.
Well, it's only cost $1.
It's $1, and I have like a bagged version that's open, a bagged version that's out of the bag. I have all 4 printings of the newsstand edition. I have the platinum edition. It's just like DC knows how to get money from me. This is
$1 at a time.
Yeah, this is why I can't say that I'm going to quit DC, because I'm going to be like, I'm going to quit you. We've got a Man of Steel omnibus coming out. Shut up.
So that's what's out this week. Looking forward to your review of that Dark Multiverse take on the death of Superman. Speaking of the Dark Multiverse, another of the one-shots, there are, I think, 5 in total, is one for Infinite Crisis. And I know you've said, how can that one get any darker than it already was? But DC Comics was kind enough to send us some preview pages from this comic book, and we've put them up on our website. I'm going in reverse order here, so I'll actually open it up in order first. Even Superman gets a bit of a showing in some of these panels that we've got preview artwork for, and it's about the Blue Beetle surviving, Max Lord, all that stuff, but all in a different version than what you remember, happening in a different set of events. Blue Beetle survives and he thrives, and he kills Maxwell Lord himself, and it sets off a whole different chain of events which irreversibly alter the lives of the Justice League and his best friend Booster Gold. So check out the preview pages from Infinite Crisis, the Dark Multiverse take on that, which will be out October 28th. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's
November 27th.
It's going to be 20 pages of Superboy Prime punching other people's heads off. I mean, that's the only way we can make this darker. No, that's an interesting concept, though. I like the idea of how would that affect Alexander Luthor's plan. Because his plan was pretty much dependent on Brother Eye getting into space, and I may be picking this one up too. That looks interesting.
Yeah, so these are kind of Elseworlds versions, but a dark multiverse.
But I think even though I make fun of them, especially Blackest Night, I really believe that they're coming from a creative place. They're trying to explore the story from another concept. This is more like Marvel's What If, which was always like, how does this story end if this changes? Whereas Elseworlds was always like, what if Superman lands in Russia?
Yeah, indeed. All right, well, that pretty much brings us to the end of tonight's episode. Before we do sign off, I'd like to thank everyone for watching WGBS TV Live. I'd like to thank everyone in the YouTube comments for participating live with the show. And once again, thanks to you, my co-host, Mr. Michael Bailey. Thank you, Mike.
Pleasure as always, Steve.
And a huge thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. And remember, if you want to sponsor the Superman homepage and support everything we do here, then please head to patreon.com/Superman homepage, where you can become a sponsor for as little as $1. Now, the complete 1-hour video of tonight's show will remain available on the Superman homepage website and our YouTube channel. If you missed part of the show, tuned in late, want to catch the whole thing in replay, you can do that on both those places. But we'll be back next week on Tuesday, November 5th at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. I believe daylight savings changes for you this coming weekend.
Yes, it does.
So for everyone in the southern hemisphere, this will move an hour later in the day. So if you're in Sydney, it's 1:30 at the moment, starts. Next week, and for the foreseeable few months, 2:30 the show will start. So please make a note of that. So until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I've got a new S-Files video coming out in a couple of days about the whole secret identity reveal thing in the comic books, so make sure you look for that. But that's it for this week. Thank you once again, everybody. I'm Steve Eunice. On behalf of myself and Michael Bailey, thanks for watching WGBS TV Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com. And happy Halloween.
Yeah,